Would also like to say how wonderful it is here to be in Sydney on our 50th anniversary. So it's fantastic. It was a logical place to come when we thought we had to have a party to celebrate, and it's going to be a great conference over the next 2 days. I welcome you all, delegates. It's really important that we come together every year. Your organisations are the backbone of ACFID. You are connected to 1.5 million Australian people that are engaged with your programs, your advocacy, your work in developing countries, getting the stories about communities and the change that's being made there, the innovation that you're bringing. And so it's critically important that we come together and share what you know, you're learning, and we're communicating back out to the public as well about the fantastic work you do over these 2 days through Twitter and then through our media. So it's fantastic to be having a conference on the topic of innovation. It's a topic that is a buzzword at the moment, and we've been running some programs over the past course of the year, but also here yesterday in Sydney, looking at innovation, exploring it with members, with the Office of Development Effectiveness as well from DFAT. And it's really interesting reactions, because some people are saying, isn't this what we always do? But yeah, because you're always working in complex environment and other jurisdictions and other cultures. And so always you're having to look at adapting to that local context and trying to find new ways of making things work. And so there's that question, is this just another name for what we're already doing? Or is there some things that we're missing that we can learn from other sectors, from the private sector, from multilateral agencies, for example, in development, where we can get new ways of doing things that would bring insights and improve and help us be more effective. So that's what we're going to be learning about over the next 2 days. I was talking to my colleague Christian Nielsen from Live and Learn this morning, and he was pointing out that in the Solomon Islands, over 1,000 schools don't have toilets. And he was explaining that they had brought a methodology piloted in Bangladesh over many years. So it wasn't a new methodology around sanitation and basically teaching people not to defecate out in the open. And they had piloted it but adapted that technique in the Solomons. So I suppose in an innovative way, is what he was saying, with their partner UNICEF. And they actually had created a community in the Solomons, worked with a community where now open defecation is no longer practiced. Why is that significant? Well, it means that kids and adults don't get waterborne diseases, don't get sick. And that's a very significant development. So is this innovation? Is this the essence of innovation in the context that we're working in? Because we're dealing with some very basic problems often of simple things that, like people and kids getting very, very ill and ending up in hospital, if there is a hospital, because basic sanitation isn't practiced. So there's a range of ways that we have to think about innovation in our context, and that's what we're going to be exploring. ACFID actually has commissioned some research, and in all of your delegates' bags you'll see new solutions for unmet needs, driving innovation and change in Australian NGOs. Our keynote speaker, James Whitehead, who is one of the co-authors of this report, is going to be speaking shortly, but it's been done in conjunction with colleagues of James at Oxfam Australia and Inventium, who did the research, and it brings together a range of theory and practice suggestions about how organisations can make themselves more open and capable around accepting and generating innovation. So we're going to be exploring this research. We've run a series of workshops also in this week in Melbourne and in Sydney, looking at some of these case studies and findings. So we're going to be exploring those in the workshops this afternoon too, and the plenary panel sessions. So I'd encourage you to have a look at the working paper. And important for you to know is the ideas that you come up with in the discussions today will actually go into helping refine this paper to make a final product, which we'll release by the end of the year. So we also have a big celebration tonight for our 50th anniversary. We have a range of awards and some fun stuff. I hope you've all brought your dancing shoes, those of you that are coming to the dinner. There is an important part of tomorrow too, which is our AGM. We'll actually be launching our strategic plan for the next 5 years. So to take us into our 6th decade, it is quite a different focus in parts for what ACFID's going to be doing. We are changing and innovating, and for a peak body to survive and thrive for 5 decades, the continual thing that we have to do is actually look at our relevance and redefine our relevance to suit the times. And I believe our executive committee have really worked with you, our members, over the past year to do that, and that will be shared in the new strategic plan tomorrow. There's also some important governance changes that we'll be making to how we operate as a council that you'll be asked to vote on. So if you haven't registered yet for the AGM, I'd encourage you to do so, because we need to get quorum. Finally, I'd like to acknowledge our sponsors. We have the Australian Civil Military Centre outside, also equity partners. The ACMC has been a partner now for 5 or 6 years. They're based out in Queanbeyan. They look at the nexus of how the military operate in conflict and post-conflict situations, and in disaster and emergency situations with civilians, including non-government organisations. So we've got a secondee out there, Laura Howison, who is here, working with them, and we have a very productive, fruitful working relationship. So go up and say hello. Equity partners are our accounting firm, and work with both DFAT and ourselves and other government departments and NGOs. So I'd encourage you to go and talk to them as well. And finally, we acknowledge the partnership with the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. Mary Ellen Miller is here, and Michael Bergman and Angela and Natasha from DFAT. We're very pleased to have you here. We acknowledge the department's partnership and support to ACFID as we carry out our work around policy dialogue, learning and standard setting for the Australian aid and development sector. It's now my great pleasure to introduce the new Minister for International Development and the Pacific, the Honourable Stephen Chiobo MP. The Minister was sworn in on the 21st of September 2015, but many of you may have encountered him in his previous role as the PALSEC for Foreign Affairs previously, but his role will focus, this new role, on Australia's relationship with the Pacific Island countries and strengthening the government's development focus on economic growth and poverty reduction. It's fantastic to have you here, Stephen. We're really honoured that you could come out, that your ascension to this ministerial position coincided with our national conference. It's really valuable to have your insights. Stephen hasn't been slow in getting out and about. He's actually met with a number of our members already in Melbourne and Sydney. He's been doing impromptu visits, but that's been very much appreciated. And so he's really wanting to engage and learn. So I'd really encourage you to have a chat to him if you can stay a little bit, or in subsequent weeks and months. I know he'll be keen to hear about your work and engage and hear about the different parts of the community, the Australian public, that you tap into as well in your constituency. So without further ado, please give a big warm welcome for Stephen Chiobo.